Hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, it's so great to have you. Thank you for being here, and as always, I hope you enjoy the show. Well, I have the pleasure of having someone back again who I know that you'll enjoy getting to hear from. His name is Stuart Brown, and he's from the Connecticut Critics Circle. And Stu, thanks so much for being here with us today. I appreciate your time.
Oh, always a pleasure to be here.
Stu, with the Connecticut Critics Circle, why don't we talk about that first and then we'll get back into your background. What is that all about?
The Connecticut Critics Circle is a group of critics, reviewers that review primarily what we call the equity theaters in the state. So equity is the professional union for actors, and there are about 15 or 16 that qualify. Connecticut is blessed to have dozens of theaters. A lot of them are community theater. So these are the equity, the professional ones. So the ones people might know of offhand: Hartford Stage, Theater Works, Westport Country Playhouse, Long Wharf, Goodspeed, Ivoryton. So those are the ones we review primarily. And then at the end of the year, we have an award ceremony. Think of like the Tony Awards for Connecticut. Best musical, best actor, best set design, things like that.
How long has the organization been in existence?
It's been in existence for over 30 years. And things have changed drastically, as anyone that reads about the theater. Let's say back in the day, every paper had a theater critic. Big papers, medium-sized, small papers. And really now, there are probably just a handful of newspaper critics. There's some radio, cable, but a lot of it is social media now. And papers are cutting back, and first things that go is the arts sections, reviews. So it's a challenge to keep the organization going because there's no farm system like we used to have. So, but that's how the group is formed.
As a theater reviewer, I know that you've been in it a long time. Why don't you tell us about your background? What even made you decide to pursue it?
It was back in college, and I started to, I just started to call up press people, and I was able to get tickets. So I was working at the college radio station writing pithy reviews, like 60 to 90-second reviews, because it's radio, and I didn't want to do a 3 or 5 minute review and bore people. And from that, after college, actually a few years after college, is when blogs started to appear. So I started my own blog, again, contacting press people, and I was able to get tickets to see shows, publish my articles on blogs. Then I got involved with the Connecticut Critics Circle, and from there I was able to join the Outer Critics Circle, which is one of the 3 primary critics groups in New York, and that allows me to get tickets to any show in New York, off-Broadway, off-Broadway, Broadway. So between Connecticut and New York, I'm seeing about 50 to 60 shows a year.
You're mentioning New York. How is New York theater doing? I know you're saying that you're getting in there. How long have you been going into the city to see shows?
So that's a potentially 2-part question. So the easy part, for reviewing purposes, it's been probably since, I'm trying to think, probably a good 35 years plus. The very first show I saw in New York, some listeners of your show might have heard of a musical called Grease. So I went to the original production back in 1972 as a high school student. So that's the first show I ever saw on my own, actually with a high school friend. And I don't know if we have time, but I could tell you a fun story about that. So if you count Grease, that's what, 53 years ago. is when I started going in to see shows by myself.
Was theater always an interest of yours as you were growing up? Did you want to be a performer?
Well, I did some performing in high school, but that was not really in my blood. And back in high school, if you wanted to be a performer, I think it was a little easier as opposed to in today's world, but that never really, I never really wanted to pursue that. And I just got involved in the theater more from the audience aspect, because the very first show I ever saw was the national tour Promises, Promises in Washington, D.C. And I just thought it was the greatest show. And so from there, I kept going. And then my parents always brought us to New York a couple of times a year and just saw great shows. So because of the first few shows I saw, I wanted to continue. And then it's kind of naturally, I liked writing, so that naturally led into writing reviews.
A question that I ask all of my theater people that come on, you're very involved reviewing in Connecticut and New York. How is theater doing overall? We're at the end of 2025. Do you see anything happening in 2026? Are things getting better?
I would say in Connecticut, it seems that it's getting a little better. There's been some articles about how some of the equity theaters are doing better, attracting audiences. So I'm pretty hopeful in Connecticut. I haven't read about any of the major theaters closing. So Connecticut, fine. New York is just always problematic. And this season so far, I would say has been rather bad. There have only been 2 new musicals that have opened. The Queen of Versailles with Kristen Chenoweth, which I saw, and sadly it just wasn't good, and they've already announced they're closing January 4th. The other musical is a 2-person musical called Two Strangers Carrying a Cake Across New York. And it is very good. If you're going to a show, mark that down, go see that show. That's it. There have been a number of revivals, Chess, with a high-powered cast, Leah Michele, Aaron Tveit, and the music is by the men of ABBA, but the book is very problematic. There's a great revival of Ragtime at Lincoln Center. That's another pick that if people are looking for a show in New York. But there aren't any other new musicals. So if you look at like that, the health of New York or Broadway isn't very good. We'll see what happens in the spring, but it's so expensive to put on a show, musical or straight play, unless you have the big stars. So right now, Keanu Reeves is in a revival of Waiting for Godot. Well, that made its money back because it has Keanu Reeves. Last year, you had a show with George Clooney. It made a lot of money because it has George Clooney. But other shows without the big Hollywood stars, it's very problematic.
I just lost a question in my head. Connecticut Critics Circle, ctcritics.org. Let's talk about the website for a second because it's rich with information. What would the viewer find when they visit it?
The main part is our review section. So if you are looking for people's thoughts about shows, you can go and we'll have anywhere from 5 to 10 reviews per show. Not all the critics review every single equity show in the state. Connecticut is very small, but you don't necessarily want to drive 45 minutes to see a show. So the Hartford people are not going to go to Westport. Westport might not go to Goodspeed. And our critics are located around the state. But it will give you a good idea about certain shows. So that's the big thing about the website. It also lists our awards, our annual awards, who's been nominated, who was selected. We have some feature articles. I believe there's one right now about the holiday viewing season in Connecticut. So if you're looking for information about the equity theaters in the state, that's a good resource. We also do have some community theater productions that are reviewed, because some of our critics do also review community theater.
Okay, let's hold that thought and take a break. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You're tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. We are going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Every holiday season, the hottest toys sell out fast, and scammers know it. Better Business Bureau, serving Connecticut, warns that fake websites and social media ads are targeting parents searching for must-have gifts like interactive plush toys, STEM favorites, and the latest gaming consoles. The scam is simple. You pay, but what arrives is a cheap counterfeit or nothing at all. Protect yourself. Be wary of too good to be true prices. Shop only with trusted retailers and avoid links from social media ads. Always check a business at bbb.org before you buy. Don't let scammers steal the holiday joy. Learn more and report scams at bbb.org/scamtracker.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, it's so great to have you. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you're enjoying the show. Well, Stu, one of my questions that I think that many of my viewers may be interested in is becoming a theater reviewer, a theater critic. They may already be pursuing it. What would your advice be for getting started or for continuing on to grow your reputation?
If you are looking to be a theater reviewer, theater critic, I would say go to our website, ctcritics.org, and there is a link to contact me. Fill out that email and let me know about your interest, maybe your background. You do not have to be a writer that has been blogging for years or writing reviews, whatever. Really, we're looking for people that A, have interest, and B, are willing to go to the theater. So the problem with people over the years that have contacted us is there's this flurry of activity and interest, but then when we say, okay, but we're looking for you to go to theater. So you can't just say, well, I live in West Hartford, I'm going to go to Playhouse and Park. Well, that's good, but we want you to go to other theater. There is a commitment. We're looking. We will train you. We actually have what's called a mentor program that we have you work with one of our seasoned professionals, but you have to have the interest and commit the time. So ctcritics.org, contact me via that contact form, and we'll see if we can get you going.
And one of the things that, well, two of the things that we want to talk about, one of which is your radio program. Tell us what that's all about.
I run a 24/7 online show music radio station where I say you will hear music from off-Broadway, Broadway, the London stage, music that you are familiar with, so Fiddler on the Roof, Hadestown, Hamilton, but also music from obscure shows or maybe shows you're not that familiar with. So the station is soundsofbroadway.com. You can listen on your computer, that you can download an app. And what I think separates my station from anything else, like what you hear on Sirius XM, is those shows that you might not be that familiar with that have great music. Other radio stations focus on the hits or shows that opened after 2000. Well, really, you can go back to Oklahoma in 1943, which was not the first cast album, but really the first cast album that made a big splash. Well, what, 1943? That is what, 80 years ago. A lot of musicals opened. It's not just the musicals after 2000. So if you're looking for good music, you're looking to grow your love of Broadway or show music, then soundsofbroadway.com is the station that you want to listen to.
And my second follow-up question is, what made you decide to create it?
I started off, everything seems to start off in college. So I was a college DJ for my 4 years, and I loved it. And I had a 3-hour Broadway radio show, moved up to Connecticut, and what a lot of people probably don't know is college radio is not just college students. Most college stations that don't have like a professional bent to it, there's a huge number of community members that are involved in the radio station. So I live not far from Trinity College in Hartford, and I contacted them, and I had a 1-hour, pretty much Broadway radio station for 25 years. Not far from my house, but you have to get up, it's snowing, it's raining. Well, a few years ago, these companies started having the opportunity that you could have your own radio station. You just need a computer and a microphone. So I did some research and developed my station. And it's, again, 24/7. It's not 2 hours a day. So you can log in anytime during the day and you'll find the music. And I record playlists each week. Another strength of the show is you'll hear music before it is really out there. So I'm hoping to get the cast album to the show Two Strangers with the Cake, because it was a hit in London. There is a cast album, but you don't hear it yet. And there are other shows in London that are coming over. I'll get the cast album before that. So that's one of the other strengths of the station.
And probably my viewers will like your advice as to how to get started to do their own radio show. I assume you're doing it from home. How did you get started?
With the home radio station?
Yes, yes.
So there's a company, actually it's a company out of England, called radio.co, not com, co. And everything's right there. So all you need is that computer and microphone. I have a Mac laptop. I have what's, I would say a high-end microphone, but a pretty good microphone. And I just download the music into the system, and then I tape playlists. So I'll do a 3-hour playlist, basically a 3-hour show where I'm introducing the songs, putting them into some type of order, recapping, maybe some trivia, information about the show. So I package 3-hour playlists, and then there's a grid. So 3 hours, 24 hours in a day divided by 3. So there are 8 different grid locations, and I just pop them around each week. So if I do a 3-hour playlist, I might play it from 7 to 10 a.m. on Monday, 5 to 8 p.m. on Thursday, and 11 to 2 on Sunday, thinking you're probably not going to be listening all those times. So it saves me the trouble of spending my entire life programming 24 hours times 7. What is that? It's a lot about 168. So you hear a lot of really great music. It's probably over, it's hundreds and hundreds of songs that you'll hear each week from different shows.
I think that probably the viewers will not know that you're also a playwright. Tell us about that.
Yes, so I've been writing full one act, so there's 80 or 90-minute plays, and I've had a number of stage readings. I'll be having, just hoping, just have to get it finalized, but in New Britain, the Hole in the Wall Theater in June we'll be staging one. But I also write what are called 10-minute plays, and this is actually a big thing. They have festivals all over the country, and my plays have been staged around the country. In Connecticut, a couple of theaters have done a full evening of my shows as fundraisers. So there's a theater in Newtown, Connecticut, and Southington, Connecticut that did that. So I'm looking for other theaters. And when I retired, I've always liked writing, and kind of got a knack for the 10-minute plays. So I started off with those and have a nice little twist, so the audience doesn't really know. Most of them are comedies. The reaction has been very, very positive, and then I moved into these more full one acts, which are really comedies. I wrote one's a murder mystery, so I'm anxious for that to be staged, or at least a reading, to see how it reacts if the audience gets a lot of thrills and chills, and if I kind of fool them at the end with that big twist.
Did you learn how to do that on your own, or did you study to become the playwright that you are today?
I did not take I've never taken a formal class. However, in a way, my training has been going to the theater. I mean, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of shows, and I kind of see what works, what doesn't work. I've seen a lot of shows in Connecticut that are great. I've seen a lot of shows staged in Connecticut, and I just shake my head thinking, how could this theater put this on? It's a sitcom. It makes no sense. So hopefully by watching, I've learned. Now I interviewed this playwright, Ken Ludwig, because one of the other things I do is I have a podcast on musical theater, which can be found at the soundsofbroadway.com website. And I was interviewing him because he had written a new show. And I asked him, I said, how did you learn or this? And he was kind of poo-pooing these writing programs, and he was just saying, I write. You're right. And you learn as you're writing, and audience members will tell you things, and theaters will tell you things. So that's really the way I've developed as a playwright.
Well, we are certainly at the end of 2025, but do you have plans for 2026? Anything coming up? Anything you'd like to accomplish?
Well, let's see. I would like to see more stagings of my plays. Speaking of musicals, I have a friend of mine who I've known for 65 years, and he's a musician, and he had his own theater company, and he always said, Stu, we should write a musical together. So last year I called his bluff, and he called my bluff. So I'm now writing the book of a musical, and he and a friend are going to write the songs. So that is something I'll be focusing on for 2026. We'll see what happens, see if we actually do it. And if we do it, if it can get staged, and you never know from there. And then also, some of my other works to see if I can continue to get theaters to stage them. 2025 was a very positive year for me. And then to continue going to the theater in Connecticut and New York and having fun.
Again, advice for the playwright that's out there that would like to get their work shown in theater like you have. What was the process that you went through to get people to notice your work?
There is two things. One is there is a Facebook group that you could search. It's called, I think, Playwright Submissions. And they list a lot of these festivals around the country that you can send your work into. If you know people in the theater, I'm very fortunate. I have a friend who is a former artistic director at a theater, and I send him my work, and he critiques it for me, and that has just been incredible. Every time I send him something and he writes back, I say, I just want to thank you 1,000 times once again, because he is validating what I'm writing, but also he's so good to pick things out. So if you know someone in the theater, to have them critique it, or even someone that just goes to the theater a lot, but get someone to look at it who's going to give you an honest opinion. And you have to have a thick skin, because you're probably not going to do it well the first time. And if someone is going to be honest with you, you can't walk away with your head down. You have to really accept that criticism and work from there.
Okay, Stu, well, we have run out of time, and I want to thank you very much for being here today, and we greatly appreciate everything that you shared.
Well, thank you.
And I'm Deborah Gilbert. You've been tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. In case you need to reach me, I'm at artsandentertainment@mail.com. Well, I hope you have a super day today. I really hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time.